everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Attendance Bias. I am your host, Brian Weinstein. I have a feeling that pretty soon I'm going to have to rename this podcast to Recency Bias, since I've received a ton of requests from people who want to come on the show and talk about shows from Phish's 2025 summer tour. Not that it hasn't happened before, but there was something about this tour that awakened the fan base, that inspired them. People who saw Phish for the first time or the 200th time are eager to talk about 2025. Luckily for today's episode, my friends Casey and Jenn have a great story to tell as we explore their summer through bookends of the 2025 tour. We review the third night of the opening run in Manchester, which is June 22nd, 2025, and then we fast forward to the tour closing show, Night 3 at Saratoga, July 27th, 2025. If you are a regular listener, you may remember Casey and Jenn from their preview of the SNHU Arena, SNHU, in Manchester during the summer preview series. They both live in Manchester, New Hampshire, and decided to get married right before night one of that run. That obviously made for a special night in its own way, but it wasn't until the third night of Manchester where Phish dropped a Tweezerfest in the second set where everything clicked, musically speaking. Then there's the third night of SPAC, where Phish played one of the most memorable shows in years. The first set caught everyone off guard as the band blended great cohesive jamming with unprecedented setlist games, playing Tweezer Reprise to end nearly every song. Although the venue was still standing as we left, our minds were shattered in the best way possible. It's not often that the first and the last stands of a summer tour have the same energy and memorable personalities, but 2025 is the gift that keeps on giving. So let's join Casey and Jenn to hear about baked beans, Lee's Campground, bingo boards, and more as we discuss summer 2025 bookends from Manchester and Saratoga. Casey and Jenn, welcome back to Attendance Bias. So excited to have you here today because you chose two different shows to cover that kind of mirror each other in a way. So we're going to call today's episode 2025 Summer Tour Bookends, as you each decided to talk about the third night of the opening three-night run in Manchester. So that would be June 22nd, 2025. And then we're going to fast forward all the way to the end of the summer tour with Night 3 at Saratoga, July 27th, 2025. So roughly a month apart. Before we get into that, Casey, I think you are returning to be the most recurring guest on Attendance Bias. How are you doing yet again?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having us. I think this is now time 4 on the podcast for me. So next time is the jacket time.
Yes, I got to get a green jacket made up, or maybe because of the icon, it's got to be a yellow jacket. Anyway, we have until next time to figure it out. Jenn, how are you?
I am great. I'm really excited to delve into this Phish nerdery that I love now. So I feel like I pushed it away for so long, and here I am.
That's what we do here.
Nerd.
Yep.
Yeah, that's our job.
Yeah.
We've already introduced ourselves to Casey a number of times. He's introduced himself to us. So, Jenn, we're going to focus on you for this Attendance Bias lightning round when we get there. But first, I just want to remind everybody, Casey and Jenn were previously here to preview the Manchester run. Do you remember that, guys?
I do remember the time we talked to you last. Yes.
Yes. So you were here to tell about the Manchester run. It came and went. You guys had some special times during it. We'll get into that later. So now we're here to talk about the tour, not the whole tour, but portions of it in retrospect. So we'll get there. But Jenn, let's learn more about you specifically as a fan. Casey, join in when you can for the Attendance Bias lightning round.
Attendance Bias lightning round.
Jenn, when was your first show seeing Phish?
My first show was in 2003. I bought a ticket off eBay and forced a friend to go with me because I didn't have a car. And then she bailed and I had to hitchhike home.
Wait, you hitchhiked home, and let's remind fans, maybe newer fans who may not remember, that it was the last festival to date that took place in Limestone. And so were you living in New Hampshire at the time?
I lived in Dover. So I I guess on the border, New Hampshire, Maine border. And when I say hitchhiked, I mean like I walked out of festival grounds with a sign and my thumb up, and then some, nice person let me get in their van and drove me back to close enough to where I belonged, and then I got home. So
let me ask you, looking at the Phish community now, 22 years later, if your car gave out or your friends bailed before you, would you feel just as safe doing it today as you did back then?
Oh yeah. Yep. I can say that. I feel like without a doubt. Yep.
All right, good. Casey, just to remind our listeners, when was your first show?
It was the November 28th, 97 show, opening night of Worcester.
Fall 97 Keystone.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jen, when was your most recent show and what did you think of it?
Most recent was SPAC, that third night on July 27th was both of our last live show.
Well, we're here to talk about it, so that probably says something.
Yeah. I don't know that I will ever see another show that will compare. I mean, I hope I will, but at this point, I'm like, I don't know how you're going to top that.
And that's why you keep going.
I guess so. Yes. And that's why I was upset yesterday when I couldn't get through the bots on Ticketmaster.
Yes, same. But it'll come through. Everyone gets in. But that comment that you made about not knowing if they'll ever be able to top it or if you'll ever see something better than Casey, you mentioned, that's why we keep coming back. I've had that feeling about maybe 5 or 6 different times in my years of seeing Phish, and yet it keeps happening. Not every show, of course, but the fact that we keep having that thought must say something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is kind of one of the points I had mentioned in the show notes here. The concept of the Phish bingo card. It's those shows where the above and beyond happens that you didn't necessarily know you were going to be there for. You happen to catch a Gamehenge set. Not many people can lay claim to that. There's things like what we're going to cover, Tweezer Fest shows. You don't know you're showing up at it, but it's kind of one of those things. I was at the Destiny Unbound bust out, or did you see a Harpua, or I saw them play with Jeff Holdsworth. Have you seen him play a Grateful Dead song? Very small, minute things that are kind of unexpected. And as you said, you might say that wasn't on my Phish bingo card. So it's Phish bingo card.
Sure. I remember the first time I saw Tom Marshall come on stage and sing a song. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to remember this forever.
At Nassau?
Yes. The first time I saw him was, I think it was December 30th, 1998. He came on during the encore to sing what was then like a 6-second version of Grind. And then the next one was at Nassau.
Okay.
So Jen, when you go to a show with a group of friends, what role do you play within that group? For example, to give you just some context of what I mean by this question, are you the chaos agent who walks in with everyone and then disappears and then finds everyone again at the encore? Are you always late? Are you always the person who is going to the bathroom and getting beers and coming back with drinks for everyone? Or are you just the low-key follower who doesn't say anything? If you had to kind of organize your Phish friend-going group into different roles, how would you define yourself?
I'm the one that makes sure we're on time and we get where we need to be and we don't miss anything. I am very, what's the right word? Controlling? Would you say controlling? Husband? Oh, that's right. Now we're married, because when we were on before, we weren't married. I like to know what's happening and make sure I don't miss anything. I'm very efficient, and part of that is comes with the OCD-ness of I have to do things in a certain order and it has to be done this way.
She's really great at planning, sometimes too great.
Yeah.
Casey, how would you characterize yourself as a showgoer within a group context?
I mean, I feel like I'm more of a go with the flow, like to get there, hang out. I don't have too many.
You never have an agenda.
I don't have an agenda per se. I just don't want to be late. Show up. I'm just there to have a good time, and whatever happens, happens.
Fair enough. Next question is one of my favorites ever because everyone has their different routine. Jen, what is your favorite snack after a show?
Well, we decided to eat beans.
There was
We decided to eat baked beans in the shower after June 20th. That was the day we
together?
got married. So yeah, kind of. So we had gotten married earlier that day, and there were beans still in like a crock pot when we got home. So it was just the perfect thing to eat with beans, and there was some pulled pork too.
Yeah.
So then it was like the joke of, we just got married. It's the night of when you get married. What's supposed to happen? Well, we ate beans instead and went to bed. And then the next day, because you get a ticket for all 3 nights, all the people near us asked, "So how'd it go last night?" And we had to tell them, "Well, we ate beans in
the shower."
Yeah, and they were like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, that's what we did." So
you traditionally consummate a marriage by eating beans in a shower. I've heard of that before.
Yeah, and it's not a euphemism.
No,
it was eating beans in a shower.
We actually ate beans in the shower. However, the time we stayed at your place and you made the pizza, like that's like a good nostalgic, like that, frozen little block of pizza is really good too. So, and pizza is my favorite food because you can have it a million different ways and it's always good.
Yeah, for me, post-show frozen pizza is kind of undefeated.
Yeah.
And finally, to wrap it up, Jen, what is the weirdest thing you've ever seen at a Phish show?
It's a toss-up because we saw this guy 3 nights in a row in Manchester that looked like he should be on the cartoon regular show. And if you haven't seen it, you got to see it. He had a mullet and it was like curly, and his body type and the way he stood and danced, he looked like a character from that show, like he came right out of it. And so I found that really interesting. But I think during the show, that's my go-to. Outside of the show was leaving Albany last October and coming out into the street to a million tanks and lots of nitrous tanks, and whoever we were with saying, the sound of my people. I was like, oh, wow, this is a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was a lot.
It was like a lot. But those are the weird things, but you remember them and they make you smile later. So
Casey, to remind our listeners, I know you've been on the show previously and you've answered this question before, but it's been a while. So what is the weirdest thing you've ever seen at a Phish show?
Back at Meadowlands in New Jersey in 2003, there was a guy in lot pre-show selling hand-blown glass dildos.
How much were they?
I didn't get that far into inquiring. My mind suddenly went to, if that breaks.
Yeah, they better be sturdy.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah, it was like more questions than answers at that point.
Huh.
When was this show played?
So today's unique structure for the shows that you picked kind of bookends, right? The last night of a 3-night run, one at the beginning of the tour, one at the end of the tour. So we're going to start with Manchester Night 3, June 22nd, 2025. And then we'll review portions of the third night of SPAC, which was July 27th, 2025. So the three of us recorded an entire episode previewing the opening 3-night run. I have to ask both of you, did the run, in your opinions, live up to your expectations or your hopes or what you pictured?
I think for me, yes, until what that feeling of actually the Sunday show was like, that was so good. I don't know how it's going to get better. And then it obviously did. But for me, it lived up to it. It was a really special weekend in general for us. So.
Yeah, we had decided we were getting married back March, April.
Yeah, something like that.
And she had tossed out the idea we could just go elope in Vegas and go see a Dead and Company show. I decided that sounded interesting, but we could go to Manch Vegas, get married, and see Phish.
Yeah, so that I feel like as soon as the tour, whenever they announced the tour dates, it was like, well, this is what we're doing. We're going to go to City Hall on June 20th, and then go see Phish.
Yeah, but we
what
did.
Was it like? What was the low key wedding like?
It turned into not as low key as we had planned, but we ended up getting married in the woods where we met, the trail that we met on during a race in 2014. So it was it was nice. It was like the first nice weekend after rain. It was like months of rain, and it was the first.
Only on the weekends, though.
Yeah, it was like the first nice weekend, and it was just perfect. Everything was perfect. Yeah, low key is the way to go.
Yeah. We had my sister come up and officiate, and there was probably about 12.
20, I would say like, yeah.
Not a lot of people
Not a lot
there.
of people.
So it was nice.
And the honeymoon, of course, was the shower with baked beans.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and we had the best wedding band in the world.
Yes.
Of course. What were some of the highlights from that first night that you remember?
For me, it was just like an emotional high of I felt like just happy that they were in our city and we had just got married. And I feel like I thought it was an overall like great show with songs you would expect to hear. And Chris put it in a different way. He said, it was kind of pedestrian, you know.
Well, it was a good start to tour. No one's ripping the doors down
right.
Generally on those opening nights. Everything was very well played. They were still trying to dial in the sound of the arena. Weird. It was very muddy back where we were.
Yep.
But that was all changed on the next two nights.
Yep.
Trey's voice was a little off too.
Yep.
But overall, it was a good selection of songs. I thought second set, the Life-Saving Gun had moments where Fishman's almost going into this like breakbeat kind of thing. And it was real interesting sounding. But it was kind of short-lived and they moved on from that. But overall, that first night was good.
And we're lucky enough, the three of us, we each got to experience this, but in two separate locations. You guys are from New Hampshire, from Manchester. What was it like having the circus come to your hometown? Because I live in Forest Hills, and so I got the tour to come literally 5 minutes away from me, which was such a fun experience. And I was surprised that they even put Forest Hills on the tour docket. Manchester, they played before. It had been something like 12 years or so since they were last there, something like that. I'll check.
I think it was like 2010.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
the same arena.
Yeah.
Right. That was Night Nurse, right?
Yes.
Right.
And you missed it. But let's not go into that.
I did not miss this.
But what was it like having the band come literally right to you instead of you traveling to them?
It was awesome. I mean, because we knew how to get where we needed to go. We knew how to park for free. We watched poor souls pay $75 for parking. You're like, oh my God, it was free right over like that. That was kind of hard to watch, but we were great. We were in and out, and I'm like, to be home and eating beans in the shower
and when it's local, there's so many friends and all that that just come out.
You see everybody, and it's a nice little reunion.
So even during the show, when I'm running down, like, got some friends right by us, so I'm talking to them. And that one thing I do need to say that I was wrong about on our venue preview. There is a shakedown. It is right in front of the venue because they apparently shut down the main Elm Street, the main street right in front of it. They actually shut down. So there is a bit of a scene. I do need to say that I was wrong.
I was surprised they did that, actually. I mean, it's the main road. So to close it down like that was kind of a big deal.
But to be fair, they also do that in Albany in front of the venue there.
Yep.
What was night two like?
Night two was, I think, one of my favorite as somebody to watch you. He had the best night. They played Reba, and the joke was he was about to go to the bathroom and then the lights came down and he's like, like waiting. And then, Reba starts and he's like, I gotta go. And I'm like, you better make it back before the jam.
That was my kind of like, I will be back before the jam.
Before the jam.
I am not missing
that's been like the joke now since then of any time someone's got to go somewhere, be back before the jam.
And the jam was excellent.
And the whistling, there was whistling, so that was fun because I had never heard the whistling before. That was a good one.
And the second set I really liked. There was like the meat stick.
Yes.
The 2001 into meat stick was awesome.
Right. And then I still can't figure out what people were yelling because they were
what would they be yelling?
They were doing the dun 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 and people were yelling, whoa, whoa, whoa. But I don't know what people were yelling.
Let's go blue.
Is that what they were yelling?
I think so.
Like that's what you yell normally, but I remember kind of being in my own, world from being in a Phish show and what you do there and being like, what's happening? Who's yelling what? This is fun.
That's your nerd coming out. Just so you know, that's how you tell.
I know, because I found out a lot of the time it was just fun watching everybody be happy together. And then I think, how long have I been standing here looking at how happy everyone is?
That's what I spend most of my shows doing. And sometimes when I'm with my wife or my friend, and they'll be like, "What are you looking at?" And I just say, "Everything,
Yeah.
everything."
Yep.
It's the best watching, not even just people watching, just crowd watching in
Yeah.
the world.
Where it's like everybody's just united and the lights are pretty and everyone's singing and yeah. Yep.
So we'll get into night 3 in a little bit more specifically, but the whole summer tour goes by after night 3, after Manchester is over. And what shocked me the most, Casey, you might be able to back me up on this because you and I chat more frequently and we're on some of the same Phish message boards, but they seem to be receiving, after the night 3 or including night 3, universal acclaim from even their toughest critics, right? Even their, especially their own fan base, who we are harder on them than anyone.
Yeah.
And it seemed like whether every show or every run had people completely satisfied. Skeptics that you and I have known for years, literally over decades, were starting to come out and say that 2025 summer tour was beginning to hold up against any of the best full tours or even years that Phish has ever played. I feel like night 3 of Manchester was the kickoff to that. All right, wait, we got to stop and pay attention here.
I'll agree to that.
Yep.
It seemed like, because looking at the whole run, they're playing, they were very focused on being patient and not letting a little concept or idea that they have just dissipate into changing the jam up or switch, taking a left-hand turn. They decided, we're going to be patient. We're going to build these jams, and it got them to some very great places. And that, I think, was the consistent theme across the tour.
Jen, did you follow the tour after Manchester at all?
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, if I didn't watch it, live, we listened to it definitely the next day on Sirius or on whatever that fun app is that you told me about.
The re-listen?
Yeah, that one. So, yeah, I've become, I don't want to say obsessed, but a little bit like
it's okay. We're here for you. It's okay.
Welcome.
You're amongst friends here.
Where it's like I feel, this is going to sound super lame, but I feel this like very emotional connection now that the way this summer played out and like how last year, Mondegreen kind of started it off and then yeah, I don't know. And then I mean New Year's Eve was ridiculous, and so now it's just kind of like, well, how can we not go if we're able to? I mean, I'll talk a little more about the emotional impact once we start talking about specifics, but yeah, I don't want to be like, I know all the things from all the years, because I don't. I went to it and then didn't go to anything until 2022.
Yeah.
22.
Yeah.
With Cappy and
Dan,
at Great Woods and like even then I went, but I wasn't invested. I don't know. I was still in my own head about who's looking at me. What am I doing? Like, do I belong here? Because I haven't been following the band. Like, but then after Mondegreen, it was like, oh no, everyone's welcome here. Like, it's fine. You're good to go. And whatever you feel, and it's
These
okay.
are the sounds of my people.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I feel like the whole summer, it was just kind of like a journey for me. I cried the whole way home from SPAC, like that it was over. I mean, it wasn't over, but it was like that letdown of like, you're at this super high and then it took like some time to recover from it. And I don't think I have stopped re-listening to that show. I mean, I'm listening to it a lot still. Like,
yeah, this summer tour and SPAC especially, I think all three of us are educators, right?
Yes.
So it made it a real tough re-entry, even though we had virtually a month before school started, at least in New York, right? It starts after Labor Day. It was really tough to let go of that feeling. It was still lingering around like I hate to put it this way, but like long COVID, like long Phish COVID. Like it just we couldn't shake it.
Mm-hmm.
And so after Manchester, did you see any shows before SPAC, in between?
Not just watching.
It was watching everything. We did a lot. Like I worked some weeks at a camp. I totaled her car.
That was fun.
I like that
Coincidentally,
juxtaposition as if you're describing what you did during the summer. Like I worked, I told her car, I went
I
shopping.
improved her credit score. We got her a new car, cheaper, monthly with a 3-year warranty. I really helped the situation.
Yes, very much did by totaling the car.
So you helped by putting out the fire that you started.
Yeah. I'm helping.
Yeah. So Casey, what were your expectations going into SPAC? If the two of you, it sounds like, were pretty on top of the tour throughout the summer.
I was really looking for some high caliber stuff. I'm not going to lie. Starting after Manchester, going all the way through, they're playing at the top of their game as much as they ever have been. So knowing that they like playing SPAC, I've seen some great stuff at SPAC, and this is the end of tour. I was looking to really see some stuff. And if not, just really enjoy myself.
Well, it's not that hard to do at SPAC, I found out, because the last time I was there was 2004. This was my first time back at Saratoga after 2004. I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but those shows, for as much as everyone cites the Piper and the Tweezer Reprise Jam and how much and Drowned from one of those two shows was so great, it was an overcrowded, sloppy mess in that June of 2004. And I had a really bad time. Speaking of attendance bias, whatever the complete opposite of that is, that's how I felt coming out of those shows. And even though they've played Saratoga so many times in the intervening 21 years, I was just never interested. And I think enough time had passed that I was ready to go back this summer. It helped that our mutual friend, Adam, was able to come up with an amazing pavilion seat for me from which to watch the show. But I was just blown away by how good a time I had and how much better the actual venue is than it was 21 years ago. It's essentially the same, but they moved a few things around. They added a couple extra areas, and it's very easy to be comfortable in Saratoga.
It was. The lawn actually had a little bit better sound than it did previously to my year. I think the last time I was there was 2013. But that first night, we were with a whole group of friends, and we were kind of further back in the lawn section, so much so that you're just spending your time staring at the large screen. And it's almost an afterthought to kind of look down in a way, and you're like, oh, what's that? It's like looking into someone's basement. You're like, oh, there's a band playing down there.
Right.
But then you look around, there's like families out on like the back section of the lawn, because it's very much a park too. So there's just lots of park-esque things, like nice buildings and grass areas and vendors. And it's very different than any other shed I've ever been to.
Hi, everybody. Brian here to welcome you to the set break of today's episode of Attendance Bias. First, thank you for listening. And second, just a quick reminder to tell you that even though Attendance Bias comes to you for free, it does take a lot of work and it does take quite a bit of money to keep the lights on here at production. So I just wanted to ask a small favor. If you could support the podcast in any number of the following ways: if you could leave a review or a rating of it on whichever podcast app you use, if you could spread the word telling a friend or someone you think may be interested in it about it, or probably the most concrete way is to go to www.buymeacoffee.com/attendancebias and donate however much you can financially to help with the continuing costs of Attendance Bias. So thank you again so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy the second half of today's episode. So let's dive into it. We'll start with night 3 of Manchester, not the whole show, but just portions of it.
Yep.
And then we'll skip to the third night of Saratoga, again, portions of it. So set 1 in Manchester, let's start with Oblivion. So Oblivion, Egg in a Hole, and that's from set 1. What about those two songs stood out to you?
So here's where we'll get into that emotional connection thing. So Oblivion now is a newer song. I've heard it 3 times now. And so this night in particular, right before, so I'm a Swiftie too, spoiler alert. So I make all these bracelets. And a woman came up to me. She said, oh, I saw you had bracelets, so I want to give you one. And I was like, cool, like, thank you. And she gave me this bracelet, and it was red, white, and blue, and it said Oblivion. And I was like, awesome. And I put it on. And that 2 hours earlier, we had just buried my grandmother's ashes and she was super patriotic. So I already was like, holy shit, like this is red, white, and blue. Like, cool. Like, all right. And then they played the song and I was like, oh God, like I just got chills. So it was very much just like it just felt like a big hug, I guess, from Phish. Like, okay. And my grandma's watching and I'm like, my grandma's a closet Phish fan, everyone. And so I have this thing with words and how they sound. And I really did not even like Oblivion because of the shale and the oil. Like I didn't like that combination. And somehow now I'm like, nope, I like this. And then the jam was good. And I went on phish.net and was reading like the blog post. And the blog post literally said, I'm like, I copied and pasted it. This was about Oblivion. As I looked at was now a fully packed room, the lights kept shining on a large American flag in the back corner of the venue. And it occurred to me that seeing Phish in the summer is a proud American tradition that I hope we can continue for many years. And I was like, like grandma, because it was American. So it just was all, so that song now just, I don't know. It feels like I was away from Phish for a long time, or I never really like bought into the whole going to the live shows. And now that I'm doing that, I don't know, this just saw it just, it was just a special feeling song. Nothing in particular where I'm like, I really loved this part, but it just, the whole thing with it all just felt nice.
May I ask what the connection is between your grandmother and laying her ashes to rest and the patriotism comes from?
She just loved her country and I mean, if you walked in her house, her decor, everything was red, white, and blue. I mean, that was, if it's her birthday, you're buying her something that's red, white, and blue. You know, if it's
everything
Christmas.
It was all American, like her house, everything, red, white, and blue, American flags,
yeah.
USA.
Yeah.
Like almost to, you kind of look around, you're like,
whoa.
Yeah, what do we got going here?
But I grew up with my grandmother. I lived with her. I think I did the math and it was like 28 years out of my, 40 years of life. So it was just, she was a huge part of my life. And so it just, yeah, it was a very emotional feeling. And as soon as the song started, I like lost it. So, yep.
That's a good reason as any.
I'm like
That's
getting emotional
story.
Now. Like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Casey, did you have a similar reaction to Oblivion, or was it all right? Let's get this
song.
Let's get to the good stuff.
I'm just gonna be honest. My favorite versions of Oblivion were maybe one of the first times they played it as Phish. It was down in North Carolina, where that was the show they had to cut because of like some raging thunderstorm that was about to come through. I think Fishman said they wouldn't do this to Taylor Swift as he's walking on stage. Whatever that version was, maybe because it was fresh form at that point, it was just one of my favorite versions. I haven't heard really anything that has matched that for me, but yeah, this particular version was, we're going to play Oblivion. Okay.
And toward the end of the set, the next highlight that you chose was Egg in a Hole, which was played toward the end of set one after My Friend, and before Fluffhead closed the whole set, which by the way, as an aside, I like that they're moving Fluffhead around to different areas of the set list. I feel like typically it's like a mid first set or a mid second set energy boost, like traditionally, I mean, but now you might see it open a show. You might see it
Like the
close
other
a show.
day.
You might see it as an encore. It's really versatile in a way that it hasn't been for years. But anyway, Egg in a Hole, toward the end of set one, comes out of kind of dissonance of My Friend, which is typical these days, right? Song of the year in 2024. And then Fishman uses that gong sound effect on his synthesizer kit. And then I wrote the synth effects of maybe every band member, question mark. It sounds like the beginning of Egg in a Hole is just like out of nowhere. It's just kind of, it's hard to place. It's hard to put down. Maybe Page is the one with all the strange sounds. It sounds like to me that Fishman is the power behind this groove at the very beginning. And it sounds darker and slower and maybe soggier is the word I put down than previous versions. This is dark, dark Phish. Casey, is that why you like Egg in a Hole?
That's
or is there something
exactly
more to
why
it?
I love this.
I figured.
Yeah. So like you were saying, My Friend, in 2004, one of the songs of the year. The other one I'm going to put in there for 2024 was Kill Devil Falls. Those two songs somehow seem to always lead to an above average jam. There was always something about them. So when this My Friend started, it was great. And then you get into this real dark Phish, and it kind of slowed down. It got real low. I was not 100% familiar with Egg in a Hole at all. I realized it came from that Sci-Fi Soldier set, but they all of a sudden, it's still, to me, I was thinking was part of that real grindy, sludgy, like evil dark Phish they were doing from My Friend. And I look at her, I'm like, they're doing something.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what this is.
And shout out to Chip. That was Chip's 50th show. I made him a bracelet for that said 50th show for him. The guy next to us all 3 nights, he was there alone, and I was so excited to give him that bracelet. But he looked at me and goes, "What is this?" And he had just said it's Egg in a Hole, so I felt so special to be like, "It's Egg in a Hole," and then obviously we're looking it up during set break and whatever, but. I obviously had never heard it before and was like, what in the world? This is totally different than anything I've ever heard. sometimes I feel like they get so artsy, and as an art teacher I really love it because it's this mixture of them like messing with the sound and the lights are going and it's like magic and you get transported somewhere else, and it's not the drugs, people, it's the music and the lights. Like
it could be two things,
but it's like they probably help, but I mean it's so I mean sometimes they do things and I'm like, man, you guys are artists. And I'm like, it's wicked pretentious of me to say this, but like, it's so true. Yeah.
The way I expressed it in my notes when I was listening was it falls apart at about 4 minutes in the same way that Split Open and Melt typically does, where it kind of departs from the song and it's just so dissonant and loud and, I don't know, just abrasive in a way. I wrote, was there a point in playing this song or was it just where the band ended up after My Friend, My Friend? It doesn't matter in the end. I don't know if, what do you think,
Trey
Chris?
says he normally writes out that list of songs they want to get to. And if you're going dark and evil, which is some of my favorite playing style they have, when you're like dark, evil, psychedelic, that's my wheelhouse right there. That or like the Reba Jam, like that. Like those are my two places where I'm like, this is really great. It almost seemed like it paired real well coming out of that darkness that was My Friend, My Friend, and right through, because it carried real well. I don't think a ton of people knew it. I don't think I've actually listened to Sci-Fi Soldier collectively as one whole thing. That was a Vegas show, and it was, as a teacher, that would be way up past my bedtime. I think it was ending as I was waking up for work. So I didn't watch that one live, but it was special. It made it enjoyable. That really was my highlight.
Well, speaking of really great, we're going to fast forward a little bit to set 2 of this show, night 3 of Manchester. Your first choice from set 2 is Tweezer, which is right at the beginning of the set, right after a set opening Axilla Part 2. Which I always think it's great to hear because they went for many, many decades without playing Axilla Part 2 specifically.
See, these are things I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was the best joke, I think, that Phish ever pulled. This is one of my favorites. When they were on Elektra Records, someone at Elektra in the suits was telling them that they weren't selling a lot of albums because their fans already heard all of their songs live. So they said, all right, we'll record a brand new song. And they recorded Axilla for the album Hoist, even though they've been playing it for years, but they gave it new lyrics. So now it's Part 2. So they could say when the album didn't sell, they could tell the executives, see, we put a new song and it still didn't sell.
Right.
You're wrong. But for years, they played it in 1994, and then it took a long, long snooze. And then they started bringing it back maybe 3 years ago, or more than that, maybe during the Baker's Dozen. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
But
I feel like I remember it from the shows in 21.
That sounds right. I think they played it in Mexico one year, and it just took off from there with an amazing jam, too, at the end. But Tweezer, it was after this Axilla 2, and it would eventually weave in and out of the set to the point where it's effectively played as every other song. It's kind of a segue in between every other song. It was a Tweezer fest, right? You could put that on your bingo card, Casey.
Yep. That's part of it. Like, this became a bingo card show. For me, like, that Tweezer starts off as Tweezer does, standard fare stuff, and then the jamming, kind of standard jamming, playful interchange between them. But then Trey starts in on this particular riff around 10 minutes or so. I kind of catch it. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting lick. Like it almost sounded like that lick didn't necessarily pair with what they were doing, but it sounded like something he had in his pocket. So that kind of made it through. And then it became a little more prevalent where like, oh, he's going to stick with this. And then slowly the rest of the band started catching on. And it almost to me felt like a little like musical motif that they had played before, like maybe rehearsal room where they're like, hey, this is cool. Because it seemed like they were all able to latch onto it. And it was so seemingly different than where they had been. But it also had a lot of like going back to like 1995, where they would be really patient with jams. In those, I remember Page predominantly staying on like the grand piano and having these charging kind of grand piano like chords going, where now he might be more synthy in that area. But this was straightforward, staying on the grand piano, pushing that jam just a little bit harder. And from Trey's perspective, it seemed more like leaning into like a Clapton sort of vibe, almost like a 70s like arena Clapton vibe thing, that when I first heard like the lick come through fully in that melody, I'm like, oh, please stay in this. And then they kept doing it. It was almost like going back to that Sand from 12/8/99 that we talked about, where it just, I'm like, just keep doing this, and it would go up to the next level and go up to the next level. And I'm just standing there, hands up with like my jaw on the ground, just being like, this is it, stay with this. And then they took that for a good 5-6 minute ride.
That's a recurring factor of some of their best jams that I hear from a lot of fans who talk about their favorite stuff. The one I'm thinking of is a very well-known July 10th, 1999, Chalk Does Torture, where you just keep hoping when you hear the groove that the band is developing, and in your head you're saying, stick with this, or I hope they do this next, whatever you're thinking in your head, whatever you're hearing in your ears. And then they do the thing that you were hoping they would do. And they keep doing that thing, and they keep doing the next thing that you were hoping they would do. And that's that feeling that, Jen, you were talking about earlier, where it's art and everyone's just kind of in it. There's no separation between band and artist, because you're imagining that they're going to keep this dream going, and the dream keeps going. It doesn't end, and everyone is in on it.
Yeah. And the feeling you get just from the crowd when they're behind it, and it's really fun listening back and hearing the crowd, being able to and be like, I was there and that was me, and that feeling is so good.
It's almost like you have a sort of bias from being there. One might say.
A little bit.
Yes, by attending the show, you are biased.
Yes, it's true.
I was listening though, Casey, to your description, and I love how your description matches the notes that I wrote down. We were just off by a couple of minutes in terms of the timestamp, the rough timestamps we put on. I thought that this tweezer was very happy Phish. I wrote not intense, not dark. This is happy Phish with happy in capital letters compared to the egg in a hole and my friend that we were just discussing, because I think it got very upbeat, tweezer did, and cohesive at around 6 minutes, completely moving away from the song. And I wrote that Trey plays a rhythm riff instead of noodling, and this bodes well for the rest of the song. And it just kept going. And then around 10 minutes where you name checked, that's where a cohesive rhythm begins and Paige steps forward. And then I wrote power rock at 12 minutes. And that's when you described the like Clapton classic rock sounding. To me, that's where it really took off, that the band was developing like this ascending riff that leads to a smooth rock groove and prime jamming. At 14 minutes, I wrote, this is what I hope to hear at every Phish show I attend.
Yes.
They're soaring. And then they speed up even at 16 minutes. And the crowd is appreciating it and soaking it in. You could hear it before it cuts out at just about 20 minutes, a little bit before that, and dissolves into Mercury.
Yeah. It was funny. Like the band was getting the feedback from the crowd. The crowd knew they were getting something good. As it kind of dissipated, Paige was playing, and like either it was like the Rhodes maybe, and I swore, I'm like, they're gonna do no quarter.
Oh
like,
yeah,
this can go. I'm like, this is no quarter.
Yeah,
it was not no quarter, but as much as they're going where you think, trying to get them to go where you want them to. I didn't get that one.
So there's more to the set, but we don't have the time because we have another whole show to talk about. But what was post-show Manchester Night 3? More beans or something else?
Trying to remember. Oh, it was, we have to get home because we have court in the morning, we think, but we're not sure what time because we both got different things. We got subpoenaed to be witnesses for some stupid thing, and we both got subpoenaed for different times. Mine said, I feel like 1, and yours said 8 a.m.
Yeah, I need to be at court at 8 a.m. the day after. Yeah.
And mine said 1, and it was like, well, which one is it? So Yeah, that was our first thing as a married couple was going to
court. Yeah.
Eating beans and going to court. You guys
Yeah.
are living the American dream.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're going to fast forward through most of the summer for the two of you. And now we're all the way at the end, night 3 of Saratoga. We talked about our expectations going in. And when we were going back and forth about what your highlights would be from this show, Casey, you wrote to me that it's really the first tweezer reprise, but actually it should be the whole first set.
Yeah. That whole first set, beginning to end, is one of the most cohesive entire sets I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
I think I also said after that, by the end of that set, everyone's like,
what the hell could they possibly do?
What do you do for second set? And the answer is you just play a decent second set. Like everything was gravy after that first set.
There were people who were saying everything was gravy after Manchester night 3.
Right. And that's kind of, I mean, how I sort of I thought that was so great. And then, you know, we went to SPAC on a whim because I was like, we got to go. We're going. And I bought tickets for all 3 nights and we stayed at Lee's campground. And I still have not taken the parking sticker off of my van because I just can't do it. But yeah, man, like first night was great. Second night, we got up as close as we could. I think we saw you second night because we're up against the rail. Yep. And so third night, it was like, we're doing that again. Like we've got to get up there. And I'm so glad.
Yeah.
So glad we did. Oh my gosh.
The lawn.
The lawn is interesting. Like I said, that first night where we're back away staring at the screen and like looking at the actual band was like an afterthought because you had to look down and through this little hole in the back of the shed. So the next 2 nights we made it our thing to get on the first bus out of Lee's, get in line. So as soon as they opened up, we could get down and claim our spot against the rail in the lawn section.
Yep.
That's about as good as you're going to do with lawn, but it was really great there.
Yeah.
You just had to get there early.
Yeah. So for everyone listening, for all the jokes about SPAC lawn tickets, accurate though they may be, there are ways to do it and to make it work.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And yeah, we're recording this soon after the September 2025 run has ended. It just ended a couple nights ago. And I could say for sure, thinking back to Saratoga, this first set has made its way into my regular rotation the same way that the ones that came to mind for me are recently the New Year's Eve Gamehenge set, Halloween 94 set 1, August 16th, 92, the Gem Truck set. Like when I want to hear a self-contained, perfect, above average, hour and 10-minute set of Phish that I could get in the car for a drive of that length and then it's over by the time I get there, this set is now in that mix. It's reached that status for me.
Yeah, as many times as I've listened to it, it doesn't get old. And especially when you're just hearing it the whole time, the continued crowd reaction every time you're going to go back into Tweezer, that says it all.
Yeah, it kicks off with Buried Alive. And I turned to our mutual friend, Adam, and I said, opening with Buried Alive is always a good sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I stand by that.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
That was my feeling. So I've never heard Buried Alive live. So they came out and it was like, oh shit, like this is we're going somewhere. And when Reprise started and seeing everybody just lose their minds, I was like, oh my God, like here we are, like this is going to be something. Like it for me, it was so much of the crowd reaction that I feel like that's really what, I don't know, it made it so much more exciting as a fan to just see the support of the crowd and loving on the band. I know that sounds weird, but it's like
Well, they just knew you don't get Tweezer reprise in
the
whole
second song.
song and first set.
It was like, what is going on? Oh boy. Yeah.
And more than that, you never ever hear a jammed out Tweezer
No.
reprise anywhere in the show.
No, and it was seeing the dancing that was like it was I make fun of the Phish dancing where it's like, you think you can't go any harder? Well, watch this, I'm going harder and I'm gonna go even harder. But it was so I just like watching that it's so much fun.
Yeah, but as soon as it was collectively known they're not ending it where they would normally end it and they were sending it, crowd reaction was huge. And then they took it out for a while. They knew they were doing something special. They felt that the playing itself had extra energy to it. Even through all the other songs they're going to do, there was just extra pep in their step. They knew they were having fun with this one. They were feeling it. So that made everything else in the set just that little bit extra.
I agree. It was a feedback loop.
Yeah.
They do something special, crowd reacts, they hear the crowd, so they do something special, and so on. The change from where they would end Tweezer reprise normally, but they don't, and they step into a jam, which is about at 5 minutes. It was not that different from the Baker's Dozen jam night when Sample in a Jar, quote, should have ended. And it doesn't. And they just keep jamming. And that realization in the crowd, although there was a little bit of a leg up that night because everyone knew going in that the theme that night was jam night or jam filled. So everyone was like on edge. When are they going to start jamming? This was a little bit more surprising, but it was just as exciting because we're 7 minutes into the show and already we're in uncharted territory.
Right.
Yeah.
Like this is set one.
Yeah. And it's barely set one. They're at crazy straightforward rock at about 8.5 minutes. Like we're already at a highlight of the show.
Yeah.
Barely starting the show, kicks back into reprise.
And the transitions were so spot on. Going into Reba out of that first reprise, spot on. And then the jam in Reba, top-notch stuff. just take it back into the Tweezer reprise right out of that. It doesn't end. Smoothly out of that jam back into Funky Bitch.
Right.
Which was a hot funky bitch.
Yeah, a lot of extra gusto in that one.
Yep.
Like everything was just spot on. Best 46 days I've ever heard, just because they were feeling it.
Which, well, then you can compare that 46 days because we heard it in Manchester, which was like, yeah, it's 46 days. But then this one was like, oh man, that was great.
Yeah.
46
It was like
days.
47 days.
Right. Well, don't forget about Roses Are Free. Also, yeah,
I was singing that all weekend. And then it came on and I was like, oh, I came on. I said, and I remember looking at you and be like, I've been singing this all weekend.
And like, I think if the statistic is right that I read, I'll again have to fact check this, but I think it was the longest one. Not that length is always everything with Phish jams, but I think it was the longest, or you could say most jammed out one since the show you mentioned earlier, Casey, the Destiny Unbound show, February 28th, 2003. This is the most notable one.
I did see that in some notes for the show where it was the longest since something. I don't know what that something was at the moment, but it was the longest.
Or it's the longest version since Big Cypress, maybe. I don't know. It's the best jam of Roses Are Free since then, and it stays upbeat the whole time. I would expect it to slow down at some point, given their jamming style this summer, but it never did. And Fishman is very heavy on the snare drum, like playing at every quarter note. Trey is still inventive. It's just high serotonin level Phish the whole set through.
There wasn't a spot where it let up, and every time they kept coming back to the Tweezer reprise riff, and then they would modulate back into the actual key.
Yes,
Tweezer reprise, and that's when you'd get like that huge roar coming back. It was something, and that's why, again, this is another one for it. It's part of the Phish bingo card. Didn't think you were seeing it. It's that show.
And it's an extra bingo card. It's bonus bingo because not only did you see a Tweezer Fest in Manchester, you saw a Reprise Fest in Saratoga.
It was it in a way that bookshelf the summer. It's the Tweezer Reprise Tweezer Fest Reprise Fest.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure that's the joke. When Fishman at the very end says, get it.
Yeah.
That's the joke.
Or because they just did the opposite and played Tweezer in the encore.
I'm happy not to know.
Yes,
I'm all right.
There's lots of fighting about it on Reddit. I'm over that.
I'm sure.
God, like shut up. Nobody cares. We just want to enjoy the music. Thanks.
So I wanted to ask, to wrap up this discussion of the set, and then we only have one highlight of set 2 to discuss, which is, when I say only, that's not to diminish it, but we mentioned earlier split open and melt sometimes when it kind of falls apart while you're there. The lights bring it back and kind of enhance the experience, but that gets lost on the recording. What did you think of this split open and melt?
For me, I want to say that I'm comparing it to New Year's Eve, because for me, that was like the first time I was really enjoying Phish and heard a split open and melt and was in the space and the wall of sound and the lights. And so that was like that was a big highlight for me on New Year's Eve. So I compare it to that, where it's like, it was really hard for me to differentiate because all of the other stuff had been going on the whole show. I love the way that I love that wall of sound artsy stuff. I just love how that is. And then how they went right back into reprise, like they like hide it in there and you can feel the crowd, like you can feel it, like it's coming, like, yeah, like that release. So I think I love it because it was like a secret coming out of it. That's how I felt, of like, it just, I don't know, we're going to play this, we're going to be really artsy, and then we are going to give you what you want and you're going to smile real big.
It's a secret you knew was coming.
Yeah, like you knew, you're just like anticipating it. Like it was just so in my notes when I was like listening back and writing, I literally wrote "wee" like with a bunch of E's, because that's how it felt. It was just like, okay, we're going. Like, here we go. Good feelings.
Great feelings. So Tweezer Reprise closes that set, and then set 2. I think, Casey, you're the one who picked Golden Age to be the highlight of the second set. What about it stood out to you?
It was a very short, concise Golden Age, and I think only because they decided to go back into reprise about 6 minutes. Clap your hands if you think you're in the right place line, like that resonated. That's kind of like, I can't say the word nutritious very well.
Yes,
just good.
I worked at that. That really set the crowd going, and then it was right back into that reprise. Just to let you know, we're not done this bit. We're holding on to this for the whole show.
Yeah.
And then that jam, I don't think it quite hit the peaks in the energy of first set, but there was a lot of spots where you're like upbeat, energetic. It got kind of low and psychedelic, which is always good towards the end. But I thought that was just another really good companion piece to the first set.
I agree. I agree with how we started this conversation, where the first set is an all-timer. Second set is only diminished by the first set, whereas it would stand out in any other show.
Yeah.
I think this was about the time I started to get sad because I realized it was going to be over. Like, I remember feeling like, oh, shoot, this is going to be over. Like, what am I? Oh, no, keep playing. Please keep playing. I remember thinking that when Boogie On came, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, good. They're still going to play like something else before they do some big end all song.
Yeah. And I felt with that Boogie On, I'm like, oh, we're we're at the gravy part of dance party.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it didn't last as long as I thought. I thought
Yeah.
we were going to continue this dance party groove out to the end and just send it off that way. But that was kind of short lived for, I believe that was going into Yem.
Yeah. Which I usually get annoyed with because of vocal jams. And this time, I mean, you always look at me now whenever there's a vocal jam of like, here it comes, because if we're in the car, I just turn the channel, turn it off. I'm like, I can't do it anymore. But this one was like, oh, this isn't bad. And then they went right back into a jam and the lights were perfect. And I feel like I probably looked at you and was like, that's the best vocal jam I've ever heard. This is the best jam ever for me.
Jen, I could see your nerdiness level just rising just notch by notch with each comment you make about this. I love it.
Yeah. So that was, I feel like that was a highlight for me just because I finally bought into the vocal jam of like, okay.
Yeah. But it was very short and concise because they were going back into the second jam.
Yeah.
Right. They wanted to keep playing.
Yeah. And which was appreciated. I didn't want it to end. Oh.
Well, Casey, Jen, thank you so much for coming on today, for answering all the lightning round questions. Jen and Casey, again, a second time, maybe a third time, if you want to come back for that yellow jacket.
Yes.
See. Well, thank you both for coming on to discuss the 2025 Summer Tour Bookends. I expect in the near future, people are going to reach out to talk about sporadic shows from this tour, as it did seem to set a certain standard for the calendar year. And a lot of people either discovered or rediscovered Phish this summer who may have previously written them off. Thank you again for taking the time to be on the show, and I hope to see you soon at a show in the near future.
You will.
And that's it for today's episode with Casey and Jen. We threw out a whole bunch of facts, whole lot of dates. Got to make sure everything is all right, so let's get right to it.
Attendance bias fact check.
When talking about a Phish bingo board, meaning seeing special shows that you didn't know would be special, Casey mentions that he saw the band play with Jeff Holdsworth, the original second guitarist in the band. That would have been on Phish's 20th anniversary tour on December 1st, 2003 in Albany. Holdsworth joined the band for Camel Walk, Possum, Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress, Run Like an Antelope, and an encore of Jimi Hendrix's Fire. In the same part of the conversation, I mentioned seeing Tom Marshall sing with the band. The first time I saw that was a shortened version of Grind on December 30th, 1998 at Madison Square Garden. And then Casey mentioned seeing Marshall join the band at the Coliseum. He's referring to the guest spot at the Nassau Coliseum on October 8th, 1999. Tom sang We're Not Gonna Take It by The Who, which I've mentioned several times on this podcast, and it was one of the first times that Phish truly blew my mind. The show where Casey saw the vendors selling hand-blown glass dildos on lot was on February 24th, 2003 at what was then named Continental Airlines Arena in the Meadowlands in New Jersey. When I was growing up, it was Brendan Byrne Arena. It no longer exists. That show is probably best known for guest star B.B. King joining the band for the end of the first set to less than stellar reviews from the fans. Both Casey and Jen are correct. During 2001, on Night 2 of Manchester, the band included teases of the Let's Go Blue chant, according to Phish.net. Casey says that one of his favorite versions of Oblivion is one of the first times that it was played by Phish, quote, down in North Carolina, where a show was cut short. He is referring to July 19th, 2023 at the Live Oak Bank Pavilion at Riverfront Park in Wilmington, North Carolina. It was the second performance of Oblivion, and the show was stopped in the middle of Sense and Subtle Sounds in the second set due to an oncoming thunderstorm. When discussing Egg in a Hole, Casey said that he's not entirely familiar with the Sci-Fi Soldier set from Halloween 2021. If you find yourself in the same position, check out my episode with guest James Dell, which was released on April 24th, 2024. He and I go deep into the Phish conspiracy wormhole of that Halloween insanity, one of my favorite episodes ever. Finally, When explaining the origins of Axilla Part 2, I mentioned the gap between the band playing it in the mid-90s and then bringing it back within the past 5 years. The big return was on August 31st, 2021 at the Shoreline Amphitheater in Mountain View. Before that, the band last played it on New Year's Eve 1995 at MSG. Between those two nights was a gap of 857 shows. Since the return at Shoreline, Axilla Part 2 has been played 23 times to date. That's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank Casey and Jenn very much for joining me today, Phish.net for their help with the fact check, the Mockingbird Foundation for everything they do to promote music education in schools, and obviously Phish.in for all of the recordings used in today's episode. If you enjoy Attendance Bias, please support the show by visiting www.buymeacoffee.com/attendancebias and donating anything you can. You can also follow Attendance Bias on social media. Thank you again so much for listening, and I'll see you next time on Attendance Bias.